Hello, 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 hello. Hello. All right. Everybody's tired, guys, I know. Thank you all for joining. We have a really amazing panel, and it's probably the longest panel. We don't have so much time, so I'm gonna just introduce what is blockchain all about, right? We have heard about blockchain in so many industries, primarily in fintech. And blockchain is at the very heart of the industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution that is changing everything, right? And if you think about it, the global digital transformation accounts for 12% of the US GDP. That's trillions of dollars. And this is something that is growing at a rapid stage. And here at Delta, we have seen just how much this impacts our life, in our everyday life. So at DeVere, we do have a lot of everyday applications for your finance. But what I would like to do next is just introduce you to our panel today so we can talk more about how blockchain is evolving education, digital identity, real estate, and insurance. So, without further ado, let me introduce you Douglas Hahn, Director, Frank Sold. Come on, Douglas. Unenburen, Chairman and Founder at Bitmonex. Chris Kaye, Co-Founder at Sherpa. Roderick, Founder and CEO of Lascaris. And Angeliki, Expert for Digital Solution at Everis. See, I told you we are the biggest panel, so I'll just stand, because there are no seats left. All right, great. Thanks for joining us. So I'll start with the lady in our panel. Angeliki, thanks for joining us. Or maybe before I do that, let me just ask an open question to each one of you. How do you build trust in your specific industry?
So thank you, Dimitri. I'm very happy to be here today. So actually, in Everis, we believe that blockchain is a catalyst for digital transformation. However, we believe that it's not actually blockchain not only important to, and the success not relies only on the technology, but at the same time on business processes, on cultural change, and at the end, customer understanding. So according to Everis, the success ends and begins actually with the client, not actually with a prototype. So for this reason, actually, we ask our clients to questions in order to understand their business needs, their aspirations, and actually we design accordingly a business model and methodology that serves them and, let's say, enables their services. For this reason, actually, we also have a blockchain academy. We believe in general that knowledge is one of the most valuable resources of a company. For this reason, we train our clients. We provide also some ideas of how they can transform the business model. And accordingly, yes, we advise them for the best. Last but not least, we have actually a legal team that focuses on regulatory, let's say, aspects. We know that the regulation is, in general, very challenging in all national contexts. So for this reason, we have specialists in technology, legal technology, and on blockchain, and finance technology, in order to make sure that, in a way, we apply also, and we take into consideration all the regulatory aspects and legal advice. We also are, in a way, blockchain agnostic, in the sense that we try to identify the right type of blockchain regarding the customer needs and also regarding the use case that we want to apply.
Cool, thank you. Rod, how about you? How do you build trust?
How do you? Sorry?
How do you build trust in your respective industry?
So thank you first of all, Dimitris, for this opportunity. Well, basically, I come from the banking sector. I've been a banker 30 years. So I sell trust. You know, banking is trust. And people go to banking when they feel that they cannot trust. They cannot trust the things around them. So.
But you're now building a digital bank, so it's different. How do you build trust in a digital environment?
Yeah, in the digital environment, I think that the banking sector will always remain there as a mainstay. You know, the digital environment. I mean, this is not a war between banks and technology. It's not. It is a disruption, certainly, on banks. But I'm very positive about it, actually, because from disruptions, you get very good things. There are negative things, but you get very good things. And I think banks, especially over the last 10 years, where they emphasized or were meant to emphasize a lot on back office and on risk and compliance, as it should be. Maybe they forgot a bit the front office, so and that is
forget about the customer.
Yeah, you know, and technology caught up with them, which is good, which is a good thing. And so banks, in my opinion, will always have an advantage because there's trust. But if they want to maintain that, they have to, you know, stand up and be counted and use technology.
All right, Chris, how about you?
So trust is. Is this working?
Yes.
Trust is what you do, not what you say. So I'm in the insurance industry, which is, I think, second only to banking as the least trusted industry in the world. And I think a large part of that is how the economics of the industry works. So who gets paid what for doing what. And in insurance, a lot of the premiums that you pay every day for your insurance go towards distribution commissions. You don't know that because it's not transparent, it's hidden. And that creates a misaligned incentive between the customer and the company. Sherpa is trying to change that by creating a different economic structure with a subscription model where you pay us to manage your insurance as a service, so we don't get paid based on the amount of insurance we sell you. And we think that that is as big a demonstration of you can trust us because you're paying us to deliver you that trust.
All right, Unenburen.
So I actually want to bring a little bit different angle to this trust issue. If you look at Mongolia as a country, we need trust in every sector, especially in the government sector. And we reached a certain stage where our prime minister and ministers are asking how can we implement new technologies? How can we implement blockchain to introduce trust? And effectively, how can we run these, for example, government procurement services, right? So, I mean, and in our line of work, so cryptocurrency was also a very difficult area to educate and get trust from the public. So I guess you deliver what you promise, you deliver the products that you promise, and then I think it's also a timing issue.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So Douglas, real estate, how do you build trust over there?
Well, unfortunately, people view real estate agents with a certain element of distrust. So it is not easy to overcome that. But in the 50 years we've been operating, I think the methodology to gain trust hasn't changed. Many things have changed in real estate, but that hasn't. It starts with the people you employ, that they understand the ethical structure of your company, how important it is to be honest to your clients, not to give false answers, to say what has to be said. In a small island like Malta, human resources are hard to come by, so it's hard to find the right type of person. So it also means sacrificing growth or speed of growth until you find the right people to populate your organization. And it also means sacrificing, speculating in your own industry so as not to create conflicts of interest within your own industry.
Dimitris, can I react to what Chris said before? Well, I mean, I don't want to get into it,
no.
but I think it's more interesting like this, no? So, I totally disagree with Chris about banks are not trusted. It's not true. Banks are the most trusted, and that is shown when a crisis happens. When a crisis or a mini crisis happens, you go and you trust those institutions which are mostly or heavily regulated. You don't trust self-regulated institutions. You know, you trust the people who are most regulated because they have to remain within certain parameters. Now, if Chris said that bankers possibly are the most hated because and the public out there might think that they are the most greedy and they don't provide the service and this and that, but certainly not about trust. Trust is, I would say, banks are on top of the list because their regulation, it's the most onerous, much more onerous than payments institutions, for example, or e-money institutions. We know that. That's why most people don't go for banking licenses, new companies, but go for payments, because they think that because how the structure is, they can do more business. You know? I mean, banks deal on own account. So, by definition, they are risky, and they have to make sure that their risk and their reward matches. That's banking.
Yeah.
You know? Managing risk.
Yeah.
Whereas e-money institution, for example, keeps its money separate. Wallet for Dimitris, one for Chris, one for... It's different. There doesn't need to be that amount of regulation. And that is why I think banks are the most trusted.
Well, I think Chris was joking, but anyway. Nice clarification. I think the average person stays with a bank for 18 years, and the average time to get a divorce is 9 years. So that tells you something. All right, cool. Back to Angeliki. Could you name some use cases of blockchain linked to education?
Sure. Actually, Everis provides services, in general, in European and international actors, including also the European Commission, and provide actually business analysis in a technical infrastructure for universities to use to issue digital credentials, so digital diplomas. And as part of this framework, actually, the European Commission develops also an accreditation database, which is actually a collection of qualifications from national qualification databases, and store this information into the blockchain, in public blockchain, more specifically Ethereum, to verify the accreditation status of universities. Of course, this framework is totally GDPR compliant because we know actually the challenge nowadays of the current legislation of GDPR, that it's not really reflecting the technology and didn't take it so much into consideration while actually this happened. We know that everything that goes into the blockchain cannot be deleted, so it's against the principle to be forgotten from GDPR. And the Commission actually wanted to make sure that the information that is stored into the blockchain is fully compliant, both technically and semantically, with GDPR. So this is one use case. Second use case is actually for validating the trust of non-formal and informal learning. Also to verify the assertions that of people that they put in e-portfolios like LinkedIn or Europass. Also, it's used recently in many educational institutions as a payment to pay tuition fees. We have an example, for example, University of Nicosia, they do this since actually 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So we see actually that the blockchain is not only about finance in the financial sector, but also is applicable in different, let's say, sectors of the economy. And in the education is very prominent also the last years.
So, Rod, you obviously talked about being in a heavily regulated market, and Lascaris has applied for a license here in Malta, and you are currently under this process. So I would love to hear your views about working with the local Maltese regulator, and tell us your experience for this process.
Well, yes, I mean, Lascaris is undergoing a process where we are applying for a license with the MFSA and the European Central Bank, and also at the same time setting up the bank. It's not an easy process, of course. As we said before, there aren't huge queues of people who are trying to get a bank license. There are very few. It is, I mean, with respect to the regulator, I think it was a positive experience. This is my 4th banking license that I'm taking care of. I've done 3 as a consultant. Wow. This one is, I'm doing it with my own ideas. But the bar has gone up immensely, I mean, what I did 7 years ago in the 3rd one, it's 1/10 of what we're doing now with this one, So it's even more onerous than what was before. But the experience I have with the regulator is that if the application is substantiated with a good team behind it, a good model, people who know what they are doing, and the right attitude, I think that the regulator has been fair to us, has been also supportive, if I can say that, and it is certainly facilitating the process. I always say that it is, the process can go fast and smooth, depending on the applicant, At least that's the experience I have in Malta. I mean, in Malta, the regulator is on top of it, and we have been supported through.
Cool. So, Chris, how can smart contracts automate claims?
So I just want to say, well done, Rob, because the MFSA is right there. So you had to say some nice things about
you knew.
So
no, listen, Chris, I was a regulator before. So I was 18 years at the central bank. So no, that is the truth, actually.
So,
and then,
so I think insurance is a great industry and a great use case for blockchain. I love the title of this panel, which is blockchain is dominating many industries. So just to put it in context, £63 million was spent on blockchain technology in the insurance industry last year, out of a total of 189 billion spent on technology generally. So we are right at the beginning, but that is forecast to grow at 100% a year for the next 5 years. So we're definitely at the beginning of something really special, but it is just the beginning. So I think, the reason that insurance is a really good example for blockchain is, at its heart, insurance is an ecosystem. So you've got underwriters, you've got reinsurers, you've got brokers, you've got customers who all need to have sight of an immutable contract at the heart of it. And at the moment, that's a piece of paper, or has been historically a piece of paper that got handed around, whereas the blockchain technology allows that to be an immutable reference point for all actors in the ecosystem. Secondly, as you mentioned, claims, really important. So I'm in the life insurance business, so we pay claims on death. It's an unfortunate fact, but it's true. There's no reason why the death registry couldn't be on the blockchain. The contract is on the blockchain and then pinged into the death registry, so there's an automatic payout on claim whenever anybody dies. There's no reason why we have to go through this complicated claims checking process, etc. So, and that's a simple example, but it applies across all of the different types of insurance contracts.
And can blockchain act as the backbone for insurance policy administration?
Yes, so that's back to the ecosystem point, but again, what we're trying to do, which is really hard, is build a policy for you as an individual across lots of different types of risk. We're not currently using blockchain because the technology is not evolved enough yet, but we certainly will be creating a contract for you as an individual with the different components of your risk on different elements of the blockchain, so it's completely modular. So you can switch things on and off, turn things up and down in a way that you just can't do today with the antiquated technology and administration systems.
Okay, Unenburen, how can we implement blockchain tech where the state has so much control?
Yeah, so definitely one of the challenges of mass adoption or introducing new technologies is educating the policymakers and then trying to have the government official understand in the right way and then have them pass the right legislation. And so because we are a crypto exchange, we are at the infrastructure of all this, so we get involved in all sorts of industries and projects. First of all, we need to have this one success story for it, especially in a country like Mongolia. We need to show the government, we need to show the public that this technology, this blockchain technology is working indeed. So Mongolia is one of the largest cashmere exporters in the world. So currently we are working with the UN and our Ministry of Agriculture how we can use blockchain and trace, track, and validate the cashmere from birth of the goat to the final end user. So because we are at the infrastructure of all this, I really enjoy being here and just being backstage. I just talked with Angeliki how we can introduce and disrupt education sector in our country, and so is it Chris, how we can change insurance, and also with Doug about real estate. So I think there are a lot of possibilities.
If I can quickly react on this, actually I will totally agree with you that there is actually, when it comes to policy making, there is a lack of know-how for the technology as such. Actually, in order to be able to define new proof of concepts and use cases, we really need, actually, policymakers need really to understand how the technology works. And at the same time, I think that they need to use European standards and international standards to go together with the technology. I believe that actually technology as such, actually alone, cannot really help. We should see actually technology as a tool and take into consideration all the ecosystem of European stakeholders and European and international standards.
Or you could become the prime minister and change it.
Also, yes.
That's a fast-track approach. But if you ever run for a president, let us know. We can vote you on blockchain.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So, Douglas, how do you use blockchain to register rental contracts and for the land registry?
So, had you asked me that question this time last year, I'd probably have told you it's a long, long way away. But it's actually, because our local government is so committed to blockchain, there are two major reforms being carried out currently, and they are both going to be based on blockchain. One is a reform of our land registration system. For those unfamiliar with the method of conveyancing in Malta, searches on title are actually carried out on individuals, not on the property itself. So it's very hard to find a property and identify who it belongs to unless you know who the prior owners were. And although parts of Malta are within a land registration area, not the whole island is. And government is committed to reform the land registration system to make it more cover the whole of the island. And the obvious way to do it, given the shortage of staff at the land registration office, was to open it up to the notaries who publish the deed, so they would be able to upload the land registration plan marked by the architect together with the contract. and one would need a system which is not able to be manipulated, and so blockchain was or is the obvious answer. And within a few months, this system should be operative. The government is also reforming introducing a new rental law. And part of that rental law is to register rental contracts, which currently are not registered but held by the individuals, by the landlord and the tenant. And because they want to avoid having one central registration office with all the queues and bureaucracy that goes with it. Again, blockchain is an obvious solution, as it's a trusted medium for either the tenant or the landlord to be able to upload their contract together with inventory, deposit paid, etc., with the peace of mind of it not being able to be manipulated unless there is agreement between the two parties. So in a very short period of time, blockchain is actually affecting the real estate market much quicker than I would have thought possible. And we look forward to the even contracts being actual sale contracts, once there's agreement between the whole notarial profession, being uploaded and accessible to everybody through blockchain, rather than the current rather pedantic way we need to search for titles. So yes, it's happening. Whether it will move into the actual choosing of your property and decision to buy and negotiations on blockchain, I think it's still early days, but for rental it's probably will be much quicker than for purchase.
All right, cool, thank you. So my final question to everybody would be towards your own business, because we want to highlight that part on this panel. So if I were to ask, what is the most amazing innovation that you are proud of, that your company launched, and it's something that you want to share with the audience? What would it be, Angeliki?
So I will not name only one. Innovation.
Just one. Let's focus on the number one
So
innovation.
actually, what I found very interesting as project is My Trust ID, which is a type of digital identity that we used for organizations to trust actually the identity of different credential owners. And this actually comes also with a wallet, trust wallet, where actually individuals can store their credentials and decide where to share, for how long, and for example, if they can decide to share it with for 1 week only, and then to retrieve it. At the same time, they can actually store any type of credential, not only digital, like diploma credentials, but also their passport details, any type. So I think this was very innovative solution within our company, and we use it also as a complementary tool to other, let's say, services within, not only within the organization, but also beyond Everis.
It's different to innovate in banks, no? I mean, I would like to think that what we're offering, certainly what we think about offering, nobody out there is offering. Because I mean, the question I asked myself when I started working on this bank a year ago was, what is the purpose of banks? No? I went back a few hundred years.
We all wonder.
No, I went back a few hundred years, and maybe banks forgot why they are in the economy. No? Banks are the lubricant for the economy. No? I mean, and that's what we want to be. I'm not going to solve all the problems of the jurisdiction or of the EU, of course, but we want to give something to the client, to a niche of clients, that they are really asking for. So we want to provide a supply to their demand. And if by doing that we are going to use technology, then there's nothing that pleases me more. Because the time that banks try to push their services through the throat of clients is passed. You know, banks are offering a service, and you need to match the service that you're offering with what the client is requesting. And now, in order for us to do that, definitely we're going to use technology. I mean, my biggest success would be if we're using blockchain to help us provide that service or that product to the client without the client noticing. Because I mean, I am not prepared as a banker to use blockchain just because it's sexy. No, I'm not prepared to come here and say, yeah, I'm Lascaris and I'm using blockchain. You know, it doesn't make sense. I will use blockchain if it provides me with an opportunity to be more effective in what we're delivering.
Correct,
That is, I think, and that is where blockchain, excuse me, I think that is where all the blockchain enthusiasts and all technologists will sing victory and will say we've succeeded when blockchain is used without, not for the sake of people or banks saying, yeah, we're sexy, we're using, you know, but if they're using it with no one noticing.
Exactly.
No one noticing.
Yes. I want just to react on this. We have to actually to see blockchain like electricity. Electricity actually enables us to have fridge, TV, light. So it's the same with blockchain, actually. It's something invisible, and we have to see it this way. We have just to see it as a tool to facilitate things that other, you know, then I totally agree with you, yes.
Yeah. Just to continue for another half a minute, we will use other technologies effectively, right, from now. Artificial intelligence is something high on our agenda, you know? You cannot not be attentive to what the client is doing, to what the client's appetite is. So we will use artificial intelligence heavily, no? Other technologies, but I know time is running out, so.
Yes, unfortunately. Chris.
I'll keep it short. So insuring you as a person rather than as a series of policies. That's our big innovation.
Great, nice and sweet.
The thing that we're most proud of is that enabling access for Mongolians to the global markets, because our interest rate is very high. If you get a business loan from a bank, it's 2% per month, which is 24% per year.
Wow.
And if you get a loan from a non-bank financial institute, it's almost from 3.5 to 5% per month, which is just crazy. So yeah, this is the thing that we are looking very forward to, enabling access for the local companies in the short run, and in the long run, enabling foreigners, investors to tap into the huge amounts of natural resources that Mongolia has. So this interconnection between, yeah.
All right. Douglas, last but not least.
Yeah. Well, you started the discussion with trust, so I feel the greatest thing our company has brought to the market is a brand which is synonymous with trust. And we've always embraced technology. We were the first company on the island to be computerized. And if blockchain can help us in our service offering to increase trust levels, we will definitely embrace it and use it.
Great. Right on time, so thank you. And thanks everybody for joining. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Cheers.